So I want you to just take a second and really imagine your daily commute.
Oh, man.
Right. Like picture yourself exactly where you usually are on a typical morning. Maybe you're, I don't know, sitting on a crowded subway train, or you're walking that exact same stretch of concrete you walk every single day.
And you're probably staring straight down at your phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Staring at your phone, totally ignoring the world around you, operating entirely on autopilot. But I want you to imagine if one day you just couldn't leave that rut.
Like you're physically stuck.
Yeah, the path just keeps looping over and over again, and you're trapped in this bizarre cycle until you finally look up and realize that something in your perfectly normal routine is fundamentally wrong.
Which is a genuinely terrifying concept, right? The idea that our own mindlessness could literally build a cage around us.
It really is.
Because we spend so much of our lives trying to mentally check out of these mundane transitional moments. And we never really stop to consider what would happen if that in-between state just became permanent.
And that terrifying premise is exactly what we are dissecting today. So, welcome to a brand new deep dive. We are exploring this true cultural phenomenon called Exit 8.
Yes, such a fascinating evolution.
It really is. It started as this viral, incredibly minimalist Japanese indie video game created by a developer known as Kotake Create. And, I mean, it takes maybe 2 minutes to play if you know what you're doing, but it sold like 3 million copies.
That's wild.
And from that tiny self-contained digital experiment, it has totally exploded into this massive multimedia universe. So we are talking about a full feature film that just screened at the Cannes Film Festival and a newly translated psychological mystery novel.
Right, it's this massive structural expansion of a very, very simple premise. Taking a microgame and turning it into this sprawling narrative, it gives us like a tremendous amount of material to analyze.
Oh, absolutely. And we have an incredibly diverse stack of sources to help us figure out how this evolution happened. We're pulling from a film review in Variety, a really deep literary critique from Book Blast, an indie film analysis from a site called The Lost Highway Hotel, a Substack essay by the gaming lorist, and we're even bringing in some raw, unfiltered reader reactions from Goodreads.
Which I love, by the way, getting those real reader perspectives.
Yeah, it adds so much. So our overarching mission today is to figure out the mechanics of this transformation. Like, we need to explore how minimalist spot the difference walking simulator evolved into this profound allegory about modern alienation, the dangers of inaction, and, well, the psychological weight of what we call liminal spaces.
Yeah, to understand the transformation, you really have to look at the bizarre trajectory of the property itself. Because, I mean, the original game is almost aggressively sparse.
It's so short.
It is. Speedrunners can finish the entire thing in just over a minute.
1 single minute.
Right. But then Genki Kawamura, who is the director of the film and the author of the novel, along with his co-writer for the film, Kentaro Hirase, they somehow adapted that 60 seconds of walking into a 95-minute movie and a roughly 100-page book.
Which is just, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And the timing for our discussion is actually perfect, because the official English translation of that novel, translated by Samiha Anwar, it literally just released on June 2, 2026.
Yeah, and the release itself is super interesting. The gaming lorist pointed out some brilliant details about it. The publishers kept the iconic glaring yellow branding and the infinity loop imagery on the cover.
Which looks so good.
It does. And they actually included the original maps and hallway images right out of the Japanese release.
Wait, didn't they do something really unique for the audiobook too?
Yes. The audiobook is narrated by Yamawaki Aaron, and what's fascinating is that it cleverly includes a PDF of the visuals, but they are rendered in stark black and white for the audio format.
Which is such a weird choice, right? A static black and white PDF for an audio experience?
But it's actually a brilliant mechanical choice, because it fundamentally alters how you consume the book.
How so?
Well, by forcing the audiobook listener to constantly pause, pull up the file, and consult this bleak map, the format basically strips away that passive listening experience.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you are suddenly scrutinizing the page with the exact same paranoid intensity that the protagonist applies to the tiles on the wall. It forces you into this active, investigative state.
Okay, I get that, but I'm still struggling to see how this actually works as a traditional narrative.
What do you mean?
I mean, you are taking a 2-minute loop of a guy walking down a hallway, which is, let's be real, essentially the length of a single TikTok video, and you're stretching it into a prestige feature-length drama. Like, how does Kawamura achieve that without the audience just walking out of the theater out of sheer boredom?
Well, that is the ultimate creative hurdle for an adaptation like this, right? And Kawamura clears it by shifting the dimensional focus.
Okay, unpacking that a bit.
So in the game, you are playing in the first person. You are basically a blank slate in a hallway. But Kawamura took that and added a psychological third-person dimension to the story. He didn't just expand the physical world, he expanded the internal world of the character.
Right.
He gave the protagonist this deeply specific, agonizing backstory and a highly acute current crisis. So the repeating corridor ceases to be just a quirky digital puzzle.
It becomes a metaphor.
Exactly. It becomes a physical, inescapable mirror reflecting the protagonist's own internal psychological loop.
So the corridor is really just a symptom, and the real trap is the person inside it.
Precisely.
Okay, let's look at who this person actually is. In the story, he's simply known as the Lost Man. And in the film adaptation, he's played by the J-pop star Kazunari Ninomiya. Variety described his performance in their review as a perfectly judged, rumpled everyman.
He really is the definition of ordinary. I mean, he's not a detective, he's not an action hero, he is just a deeply exhausted guy trying to get through his day.
A guy having what might legitimately be the worst commute in human history.
Oh, without a doubt.
The inciting incident, like the catalyst right before he drops into this supernatural loop, it's incredibly grounded and stressful. He's on a crowded subway train, surrounded by this sea of identical passengers. And they're all completely glued to their smartphones, trapped in their own digital tunnel vision.
Yeah, it's a very familiar scene.
Totally. And then the lost man witnesses something deeply uncomfortable. This businessman starts just viciously screaming at a mother because her baby won't stop crying.
Right, it's the kind of intense public confrontation that makes everyone in the vicinity just completely freeze.
But the lost man doesn't just freeze. He actively chooses to do absolutely nothing. He just sits there and watches this woman get berated and entirely fails to intervene.
Yeah.
And then, mere seconds later, his phone buzzes. It's a text message from his ex-girlfriend. She tells him she is pregnant, and she is explicitly asking him what they should do about it.
It's just wave after wave of stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The sensory overload hits him all at once. He bumps into someone, he drops his phone, the screen shatters, his lungs tighten into a full-blown asthma attack.
Oh, man.
And then suddenly, the crowded train is just gone. The noise stops. He is completely alone in a sterile, white-tiled underground passageway.
It's so well done, building tension through mundane urban anxiety before introducing a single supernatural element is just a masterclass in pacing. Kawamura really anchors the supernatural terror in deeply relatable human panic.
It seriously sounds like the ultimate bad Monday anxiety dream, like everything going catastrophically wrong at the exact same moment. But when you look closely at that sequence, his sin, like the reason he seems to be singled out for punishment isn't malice.
Right.
He didn't do something intentionally evil to that mother or his ex-girlfriend. His defining flaw is pure inaction.
And that inaction is the engine driving the entire narrative.
Yeah.
There is this brilliant piece of analysis from a Goodreads reviewer named Jogelin who unpacked the mechanics of this flaw perfectly.
What do they say?
Well, Jogelin noted that his predicament in the hallway is born entirely from his refusal to make a choice in the real world. Specifically, his refusal to make a definitive choice about fatherhood and taking responsibility with his ex-girlfriend.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, he thinks that by ignoring the text, by just not making a choice, he is staying neutral. But the story argues that refusing to choose is, in itself, a profoundly destructive choice.
So his inability to move forward in his personal life literally manifests as an endless physical loop where he cannot move forward in space.
Yes.
The physical maze is just a concrete representation of the mental maze he's already built for himself.
Exactly. Which brings us to the mechanics of the maze itself, because the way this space operates is diabolical.
It really is.
The environment is described meticulously across all the sources. It's a subterranean transit corridor with harsh white square tiles, cold, humming fluorescent lights, and bland yellow signage. It operates as an Escher-like infinity loop.
And the rules, which he actually finds printed on a totally mundane informational poster, are deceptively simple but incredibly punishing.
They really are.
Basically, the rules are the core code of the original Kotake Create game, perfectly translated to the page and screen. You walk down the corridor. If you spot an anomaly, which is any subtle deviation or change from what the hallway normally looks like, you must immediately turn back.
Right.
If there is no anomaly and everything is completely normal, you proceed forward. The goal is to make it through 8 completely normal sections to reach exit 8 and escape.
But the punishment for failure is absolute.
It's brutal.
It is, because if you make a single mistake, like if you proceed when there was an anomaly, or if you panic and turn back when there wasn't one, you reset all the way back to zero. You lose all your progress instantly.
And the anomalies you are looking for are incredibly varied. The review from the Lost Highway Hotel made a really interesting distinction between the different categories of anomalies we see.
Yeah, they did.
Some are very loud and aggressive, like a massive tidal wave of filthy water rushing down the hall toward you, or a legion of genetically deformed rats swarming from the vents.
Interestingly, the Lost Highway Hotel actually critiqued those louder cinematic moments. They noted that the CGI tidal waves and the monster elements were some of the less successful additions to the film adaptation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they felt that where the story truly shines and where it generates genuine skin-crawling terror is in the subtle, paranoia-inducing anomalies.
Oh, the ones that attack your trust in your own memory?
Yes, exactly.
Like a doorknob that's suddenly been repositioned 2 inches to the left. Or the painted eyes on a security poster subtly shifting to follow you as you walk past. Or hearing a disembodied voice whispering your name from inside an empty photo booth.
Yes, terrifying.
Those subtle changes are so much worse than a tidal wave because they force the reader, the viewer, and the lost man to become hyper-fixated on the environment. You have to scrutinize every single tile, every single vent, constantly asking yourself, wait, was that always there?
You are just forced into a state of exhausting hypervigilance.
But this feels like a rigged game to me. Think about it. The guy's fatal flaw in the real world is that he zones out. He stares at his cracked phone screen and completely ignores his surroundings, to the point where he ignores a screaming businessman and a crying baby.
Right.
So, dropping a guy with that specific flaw into a puzzle that demands 100% flawless, detail-oriented observation feels less like a lesson and more like pure sadistic torture.
Well, the cruelty is entirely the point.
You think?
Definitely. The literary critique from Book Blast explores the psychology of this setup beautifully. They explain that failing to spot an anomaly in this corridor represents tedious, mindless conformity. The maze isn't just an escape room, it's a mechanism for moral retribution.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is specifically engineered to force the lost man to do the one thing he refused to do on the train: open his eyes, pay attention to the world around him, and actively engage with his reality.
He cannot survive this space on autopilot. The environment demands his active participation. And what adds an entirely new layer to this is that he isn't actually alone in this space.
No, he's not.
As he wanders, he encounters what the sources refer to as NPCs, non-playing characters. There's a little boy, and there's a man the sources call the Walking Man, played in the film by Yamato Kochi.
Yeah, and at first glance, they just seem like creepy background dressing to make the hallway feel even more unnerving, right? The walking man just impassively strides past the protagonist every single time the loop resets, never saying a single word.
But Kawamura uses these characters to execute his most daring narrative leap, particularly in the novel format.
He really does.
He doesn't leave them as two-dimensional obstacles. The narrative actually fractures, jumping perspectives to follow these other wanderers.
Because they aren't NPCs at all. They're real, flawed people. They're other players trapped in their own personal limbos, basically serving time for their own unique moral failings.
And that Goodwin's review from Jolin provides some incredible lore drops about the psychology of these specific characters. Jolin points out that the Walking Man represents someone who has actively rejected finding true enlightenment or deeper meaning in his life.
Yeah, he's a fascinating character.
He is. Instead of seeking meaning, he has chosen to live out his days in a state of willful ignorance, only looking at what he considers to be beautiful things. He glides through life, completely ignoring the ugly, painful realities of the world.
And then you have the little boy, who serves a highly specific, agonizing psychological function for both men. The boy acts as a physical manifestation of a guilty conscience.
Right.
For the walking man, seeing the boy is a painful, constant reminder of his own estranged son. And for our protagonist, the lost man, the boy is a direct, inescapable reminder of his unborn child, the exact child he is cowardly refusing to make a decision about.
And bringing up the unborn child brings us to a fascinating divergence in how this story is interpreted by different audiences.
Certainly.
Because what's compelling about reading through these diverse sources is seeing how wildly the thematic takeaways differ depending on the lens of the critic. Now, as a quick note to you listening, we're not taking a stance here. We're just reporting what the sources say.
Right, totally impartial.
For instance, the indie film site, The Lost Highway Hotel, views the protagonist's flight from fatherhood as a macro-political statement. They argue the story creates a murky pro-life reading, suggesting that the narrative is a commentary on Japan's highly publicized diminishing birth rates and societal anxieties about reproduction.
But if you pivot and look at the reader reviews on Goodreads, like Jolin's analysis, they strip away the socio-political demographics entirely.
Completely.
They view the exact same plot points purely as an intimate, micro-level look at personal cowardice. For them, his sin isn't about societal birth rates at all. It's just a deeply personal metaphor about an individual's fear of commitment and his refusal to take responsibility for his own intimate relationships.
It's a real testament to the strength of Kawamura's writing that both a macro-societal reading and a micro-personal reading are fully supported by the text.
Yeah, it allows the story to function as a mirror, not just for the characters, but for the audience analyzing it.
Totally. Now, I want to zoom out from the characters for a moment and look at the physical architecture of the trap itself, because the setting plays such a monumental role in why this story resonates globally. Exit 8 taps heavily into the massive cultural fascination we currently have with liminal spaces.
And to understand the psychological weight here, we kind of have to define what makes a space liminal.
Right.
These are essentially transitional areas. They are places you are meant to pass through in order to get somewhere else. Subway tunnels, empty parking garages, airport terminals at 3 in the morning, sterile hospital waiting rooms.
Places you aren't supposed to stay.
Exactly. Our brains do not categorize these locations as destinations. So, when you are forced to linger in a space designed exclusively for transit, your brain literally cannot process it. It creates a deep, primal sense of psychological dread because you are trapped in the between.
And the Book Blast Review makes some amazing historical connections regarding this dread. They point out that this fear of the endless transitional corridor is actually a classic storytelling trope that has just evolved alongside our architecture.
Yeah, they trace the lineage all the way back to the labyrinth of the Minotaur in Greek mythology, this massive, shifting, subterranean maze designed to disorient and consume.
And they track that same architectural anxiety through Gothic literature, pointing to the crumbling, endless subterranean passages in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And it translates perfectly to modern cinema, too. They bring up Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, where the endless, geometrically impossible hotel hallways become an engine of crushing psychological claustrophobia for Jack Torrance.
Oh, for sure.
And they also reference Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth, specifically that terrifying sequence where the young girl, Ophelia, is racing down a long, echoing stone corridor, being hunted by the Pale Man. The reviewer brilliantly notes that the hallway chase is a physical metaphor for barely surviving the brutal, dangerous transition from childhood into adulthood.
What connects all of these historical examples and what Exit 8 weaponizes so effectively is the idea that the environment itself is the primary antagonist. But Kawamura updates this ancient fear specifically for the modern digital age.
Yes.
The Lost Highway Hotel connects this modern iteration of the liminal space directly to the internet era. They compare the sterile subway loop to the viral YouTube horror series, The Backrooms, and to Kiyoshi Kurosawa's masterpiece film, Pulse, which perfectly captured the suffocating isolation of the early internet.
And that modern isolation is perfectly mirrored in the very first scene on the train. I mean, look at that sea of smartphone users, all identical, all ignoring each other, all bathed in the blue light of their screens.
It's so bleak.
It is a profound, terrifying disconnection from humanity. The brilliant irony here, which the sources point out, is that this entire critique of digital alienation and screen-induced mindlessness originated from a video game. The digital medium itself is critiquing the exact passive behavior it usually encourages.
It's basically a snake eating its own tail. The game is asking you to stop playing games and look at the real world.
Yeah, exactly.
It actually makes me think of the physical act of doom scrolling on social media late at night.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Think about it. When you are doom scrolling, your thumb is essentially playing the role of the walking man. You are physically moving, swiping through endless digital tiles, but you aren't actually arriving anywhere.
Right, you're just stuck.
You are just wandering down a digital hallway, seeing slight algorithmic variations of the exact same content over and over again. You are trapped in that loop simply because you are too disengaged, too numb, to actively make the choice to turn off the screen and find the exit.
That is a remarkable synthesis of the physical and digital traps. Doom scrolling really is our modern self-inflicted liminal space. When you are caught in that feed, you aren't fully present in the real physical world, but you aren't truly engaging with the digital world either. You are suspended in a state of total passive observation. And the only way out of that state is to recognize the loop for what it is and actively force yourself to break it.
So how does our lost man break his loop? Let's look at the climax and the ending of the story, because it is profound, and it completely refuses to hand the audience an easy resolution.
No, it really doesn't.
After all this struggle, after facing the subtle paranoias and the loud terrors of the hallway, after confronting the manifestation of his unborn child, the lost man doesn't actually make it out of exit 8.
Right, there is no triumphant final shot of him bursting through a set of doors into the warm sunshine.
No. Instead, the loop resets him completely. It drops him all the way back to the very beginning, back onto the crowded, noisy subway train, right to the exact moment of his original interaction with the screaming businessman and the text from his ex-girlfriend.
But the architecture of the scene has changed because the architecture of his mind has changed.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. He is back where he started physically, but psychologically he has traversed the maze. He has been forced to face the devastating consequences of his own inner blindness and his fear of commitment.
He finally has the chance to do it over. He has the opportunity to actively choose a different path, to step up and intervene with the screaming businessman, to open his ex-girlfriend's text and answer it with intention rather than ignoring it.
And that's the ultimate takeaway for you as you're listening today. As the Variety Review states, the narrative functions as an allegory for breaking cycles of destructive circular thinking.
Yeah.
In a world defined by groupthink, conformity, and staring blankly at our screens, the only way to break out of the loop is to, quote, embrace the anomaly.
Embrace the anomaly. I love that.
You have to look for the things that disrupt the pattern. You have to actively pay attention to the uncomfortable details you'd rather ignore, because if you don't, you're just going to keep walking down the same slightly altered hallway forever, wondering why you never arrive anywhere.
It is a haunting, brilliant concept that demands self-reflection, and it leaves us with something really important to think about. Tomorrow, when you take your usual commute, when you get on that train or you walk that standard route to the office, force yourself to look up.
Yeah, really look.
Really look at the physical space around you. But I want you to take it a step further. Look at the digital algorithms serving you content on your phone right now. Are you actively choosing what to consume and how to live? Or are you just letting the code guide you down a comfortable, repetitive hallway? Because the scariest anomalies aren't the supernatural monsters waiting in a subway tunnel. They are the invisible loops we willingly lock ourselves inside every single day.